You know, it doesn't matter if you're a beginner player or if you've been playing for years and years and years, we all need to work on our tuning. It's one of those things that nearly every saxophone player struggles with to some degree. And actually, working on your tuning can be kind of boring, and you know, most of the exercises really aren't fun. So in this lesson today, I want to show you a really cool exercise that you can do to make tuning not only more fun to practice, but also more practical in the way that you apply it to your saxophone and the way you think about your tuning. So lots and lots to talk about today. Hey, just before we get started, don't forget, as always, click the subscribe button if you're brand new here, and the bell icon and all that other doodaddy stuff so you know about other lessons that are coming up, because I'm doing new lessons like this all the time. Okay, let's get stuck in. G'day, Nigel here. Hey, I'm really glad you can join me for this lesson today. For those of you who don't know me, I run Sax School, which is a huge online community of players. We've got thousands of students. In fact, like 1,900 people, I think, have joined in the last week. It's been crazy. So a question that I get a lot from people is asking for help with tuning. It's a common theme because particularly with adult players who are just starting saxophone, tuning is one of those things that's so frustrating, so hard to learn, and so confusing as well, because it changes over the range of your saxophone and depends on the make of your saxophone and the sort of mouthpiece that you're using and how strong your embouchure is. There's so many different aspects to think about. So I get that question from all of my thousands of members a lot. And so I'm hoping this exercise today is really, really going to help. Now I'm going to break it down into a few different things today. I want to talk about the sort of apps that I use for working on tuning and how I think about my tuning. And also I'm going to show you a great exercise that you can use to work on your tuning that's actually quite good fun to work on. Now I've got a great bundle of lessons I'll tell you about a bit later on as well that'll help you with your general skills on saxophone, because a lot of tuning is sort of tied in with building up your general technique and your embouchure strength. So it's really important to have some great resources. I'll tell you about that in a sec. So why are we even bothered about tuning? Well, you know, obviously if you're only playing by yourself, I guess it's something that you don't think about very much. But if you play with a backing track, or if you play with any other musicians in a band setting, even just other saxophone players, it's really, really important that you can play in tune. Now, we know that basically you can move your mouthpiece in and out to make your overall pitch higher or lower. That's kind of like a really foundational thing we learn when we're starting to play saxophone. But really what I'm talking about here, apart from that, is the intonation or the tunefulness within the range of the saxophone. Because even, like, this is a modern saxophone. I mean, I've had this for a long time, but it's a modern designer saxophone. All modern saxophones are pretty much in tune, but even so, there are discrepancies in and amongst the range of the saxophone that affect your tuning. So for example, you might find that your C sharp is really flat, or your higher notes are sharp, or your low notes are out of tune, or there'll be a certain note on your saxophone that is out of tune compared to the other notes on your saxophone. And these are the reasons why we really need to understand how our saxophone performs, particularly when we play it the way we do, so that we can preempt where those tuning issues are and correct them. So a lot of it comes down to really understanding our saxophone and understanding our ears and being able to memorize the sort of feeling that we need to have in order to keep our saxophones in tune. Now, whenever I'm practicing, I use a tuner. I've got it on my iPad here today, and there's lots of different apps that you can use. The one that I've been using for quite a while, actually, I really love this app. It's called Tonal Energy, the Tonal Energy Tuner. I like it because, well, it gives you a nice smiley face when you play in tune, which is kind of cool. But I also like it because it's got a tuner and a metronome inbuilt, which means I can use my two favorite tools constantly when I'm practicing. And that's actually really cool. There are lots of other apps on the market as well. One of the things I would just say about choosing an app, a tuner app that works for you, is some tuner apps really go into fine detail, like how many how close, how accurate you are in tune. And it's easy as a player to get completely obsessed with a slight variation in your tuning. And I think, to be honest with you, it's important to be overall in tune, but you don't want to get absolutely mental about how in tune you are perfectly, because number one, it's not good for you mentally, and number two, I don't really think it's important to be within a fraction of a cent in tune all the time, because every other player is not going to be that in tune. So what we're really aiming for here is a general sense of tunefulness across our saxophone that is manageable and attainable without getting too crazy about it. So the Tonal Energy Tuner is great because it shows you you're pretty much in tune, you're very close, you still can be very accurate with your tuning, but also gives you a nice smiley face. So it's easy to track and it's encouraging to use when you're practicing. Now, tuners generally will show you your tuning in concert pitch, and what that means is our saxophones, like an alto saxophone here is in the key of E flat, our tenor saxophone's in the key of B flat. So when we play, for example, a C on our alto saxophone, it's not the same as a C on the piano, and the tuner is by default going to show you what note you're playing on a piano. Now if you want to change that setting, a lot of apps will let you actually change the tuning of the sound that it's presenting back to you. So Tonal Energy Tuner, for example, you can go in and hit the transpose button and you can change it to alto key or to tenor key, depending on what instrument that you're using. Now you might find that that suits you better because it's less confusing. You're playing a C, it's showing you that you're playing a C. But personally, I like to keep it in concert pitch because I'm always changing saxophones. I even use it when I'm practicing my clarinet or I'm practicing on my flute. So what I'm really looking for here is that the note that I'm playing is in tune. I kind of know that the transposing note, what the transposing note should be, but really I'm looking for keeping that note in tune. That's the thing that I'm looking for more than the actual note name. Right, now I want to show you how I use a tune like Somewhere Over the Rainbow that I played at the start of this lesson to work with my tuner and really make tuning fun and practical. But just before I do that, tell me in the comment below if you use a tuner. Do you already use a tuner in your practice? Maybe let me know what app you use as well. I'd love to know. So it's a really good idea to start off getting your saxophone in tune, warming up, making sure that the bottom of the saxophone isn't cold, and doing some long tones and checking your general tuning, and obviously making sure your mouthpiece is roughly in the right place. And there's lots of exercises you can use for that. But to really take it up a notch, I love to use a simple melody, something like Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and use that with my tuner. Now, why do I use that particular melody? Well, the A section, the first section of that tune is actually very diatonic, which means it uses notes from the scale or the key area of this tune. So as we work through the melody with the tuner, there's lots of opportunities in the melody to check the intonation against the actual tuner. And to take it even a step further, I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people make with tuning is that they practice their tuning in isolation. In other words, they're not listening to any other sort of related pitch or pitch that they can relate their playing to when they're working on the intonation. And this is a big mistake in my opinion, because when you're ever playing with another, unless you've got perfect pitch, which is like a small percentage of people, and I certainly don't have perfect pitch, meaning that you can always know in your head what note is what note and how perfectly in tune it is. Frankly, I think that could drive you crazy. I don't have perfect pitch, but I've got quite good relative pitch. And that means that I can hear a pitch and identify it on my saxophone, and I can also match my pitch to what I'm hearing. So this is something that happens from years and years and years of practicing and playing with other people and really listening to music, okay? And you'll find that your relative pitch will improve as well. So thinking about that, when we practice with our tuner, what it's actually a great way to do things is actually to get the tuner to play a note that you are listening to and then adjusting your tuning to. Now the Tonal Energy Tuner actually does this. A lot of other apps do as well. So for example, let's say that I'm going to play Somewhere Over the Rainbow in the key of C major on the alto saxophone. Now, you could do this on tenor, soprano, baritone, anything. But I'm going to be in the key of C major. So on the key in the key of C major for alto saxophone, that means that the concert key is E flat. So my tuner is set to concert key. So I'm going to ask the tuner to play me an E flat. There we go. So I've got the tuner playing me a nice long E flat, which is the first note of the melody for Somewhere Over the Rainbow in the key of C. Now, as I play through the melody, I want to listen to that note and keep my melody, my notes in tune with that. And I can also check on the app to make sure that I am actually in tune. So let's see what happens. Where's my E flat? There it is. Okay, so. So at that point, I'm back onto the C on my alto, which is the same note the tuner is playing. Now that note I'm ending on there is a G on the saxophone, which if you think about the chord structure of a C major chord, C, E, and G, 1, 3, and 5, the G is the fifth degree of that chord. So that's a really important anchor note or sort of foundational note, a chord tone for that chord. So when I'm playing that G, I can also listen to the C or the E flat concert that's being played on the tuner and think about how those two notes fit together. Even though they're a fifth apart, by our ears, they do fit together, and you can use your ears to just adjust them and keep them in tune. And that's another aspect of using relative pitch that's really, really important. So let's keep going from there. Where's my E flat? There we go. So we got. Now you can see there my G is a little bit sharp, so I'm having to pull it back down, really think about it and feel what it feels like when I've got it in tune. The next phrase. Now that phrase is really interesting because it moves away from the key area, but it has notes that are from the C arpeggio in it. So we're starting on A, up to the F, and then onto the E, and the E is one of the chord tones, right? C, E, G. Back to the E again. And then the last phrase. Okay, so the point is here that even when we move away from that, the fundamental note that's being played on the tuner, the C or the E flat concert, we can still listen to the way our note relates to it and then identify the notes that are from the chord, that are in the melody as we pass through those notes. And they're a point for us to use our relative pitch and really think about how in tune we actually are. So the really nice thing about this exercise is that you get to work on things like intervals and your overall tunefulness. You also get a chance to think about how your tuning works within a melody. And that's super important because we're not just going to be playing long tones when we're playing with a band or playing with a backing track. We're going to be playing melodies, and we need to make sure that the notes inside those melodies are actually in tune. So it's a really great exercise, this. And of course, once you've done this in the key of C, you could do it in C sharp or D flat, or you could do it in F sharp or B flat. You could work your way around the cycle of fifths. However you'd like to torture yourself, you've got lots of options available. Now, if you want to take this up one more notch, the next step is, when you're really comfortable with that melody, is to have some fun playing around with the melody without obsessing too much about the tuner. But then as you're playing through, refer back and just check to see if those particular notes are in tune, right? So often I'll be practicing and I won't have the tuner in front of me like this. It'll be sort of in my peripheral vision. And then I'll go back and I'll check my notes throughout the melody, okay? So let's try this. Let's see how far out of tune I am. I'll do it in the key of D now. So if I'm in the key of D, that's going to be an F concert. There we go. Here we go. So let's try it. Okay, so there's stuff I need to work on in there, but overall pretty in tune. Now the cool thing about this exercise is you could make it as easy or as hard as you want. But most important, I want to encourage you that you use this every single day when you're practicing. Now don't forget, it doesn't need to be Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You could use pretty much any simple melody that you can think of. It could be Happy Birthday, it could be a pop tune, it could be a jazz standard or a section from one of those songs. Always best though if it's a pretty simple melody. And I think a melody that's got some nice intervals in it makes it an extra challenge as well. Now don't forget, tuning is part of the whole ecosystem of learning saxophone. So to really get your tuning under control, you need to think about developing your embouchure, thinking about your breathing, all of your overall skills. It's just part of the whole fabric of learning saxophone. And so I think it's super important that you've got some great resources that will guide you through how to practice this effectively so you can learn all of these skills together. So I've got a fantastic bundle of lessons for you. It's my saxophone toolkit. Now this is a collection of my favorite lessons. It's free. You can download it from my website. There's a link down below. And there's some lessons in there if you're a beginner that'll get you started quick. If you're a more experienced player, there's a great warm-up exercise in there. And actually, if you want to learn about improvising, I've got some improv lessons in there too that'll just get you started on the road to developing some great tactics and some great ways to think about improvising that'll get you going fast. So check out the link below, go grab that out, it's free, and I hope it really helps you. Also, don't forget to explore the other lessons on my channel because there's tons of other stuff on here. If you're really serious about moving your skills ahead, I think you'll find them really helpful. I know they're going to help you. So leave me a comment as always, let me know how you're getting on. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like thing, all that sort of stuff, and keep practicing on your tuning. I'll catch you next time.